Ladies and gentlemen, a huge revelation is that a former Bureau legal counsel, the former legal counsel for James Comey, has given testimony in a grand jury within the indictment of Michael Sussmann. This is huge. Now, of course, we have grand jury testimony because you have 3 indictments thus far. He has more grand juries and he has more indictments in the future. The interesting thing is that most people don't understand the testimony of the top lawyer, the top attorney at the FBI, at that point, James Baker, or one of the top in terms of legal counsel, could be used against James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Strzok, McCabe, all of them. Kleinsmith again. What Durham is doing is the following. And hit subscribe to this channel right now. I have a very important segment on the stock market crash channel. Our beloved President Biden, mashed potato brains, decided to ban the 7 to 10% of oil imports from Russia. Now, I'm not opposed to that. I think that's great. However, he also is against drilling domestically. So, how do you replace that? That is a big problem, especially when you try to pass a Build Back Better bill that focused on combating climate change. So you're making it more difficult for fossil fuel companies, while at the same time stating, well, we're going to just do away with 7 to 10% of imports of crude oil from Russia after you doubled imports last year. And we were a net exporter of oil under President Trump for the first time since 1949. But anyway, at least Trump isn't tweeting. I have a segment every evening at around 10, 11 p.m. or so. So be there for that segment tonight. At least Trump isn't tweeting, but, the sky is falling. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. To my new Patreons, thank you so very much. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I'll talk about that within the Stock Market Crash channel. But the big thing pertaining to the Baker testimony is the following. He's getting government officials to turn on the attorneys, the journalists, the operatives that the Democratic Party and Clinton paid. Why is that important? Why is it taking so long? People say, well, it's taking so long to indict. Well, he's indicted 3 people without any political support or without any support from media. The reason it's taking so long is he has to find a way. John Durham has to find a way to reveal or to discover from a legal perspective that they were all in on it. And what he's doing, because he knows that Baker and Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Clapper and Brennan, he knows that they weren't duped. Nobody was deceived or duped. So Michael Sussmann, in a way, is right. Or his defense is, he can easily just say, look, Baker knew. The entire Bureau knew. Comey knew. They just wanted a pretext to investigate Trump. I didn't lie to anybody. And it wasn't important that I didn't tell them that Clinton paid me. So from Michael Sussmann's perspective, the indicted Clinton-linked attorney in the Durham probe, his perspective, his defense perspective is, he didn't deceive or dupe anybody. He's going to explain to the court when the trial takes place that he wasn't deceptive. He was an attorney that worked for a law firm that the entire planet knew was linked directly to the Democratic Party and especially the Clintons. And he was well known throughout the DOJ and FBI, and people knew who he was. And they knew exactly when Sussmann was giving information on Alpha Bank and Trump, they knew when he was giving these reports, these reports that he compiled with another client who was a tech executive, and with researchers at Georgia Tech or other universities or other organizations, the government officials knew that they were being handed information that was not only false and fabricated and contrived, but they knew that Sussmann was working for Madam Secretary and the DNC, just by virtue of him being paid by that law firm. So he didn't have to. So from Michael Sussmann, the third indictment in the Durham probe special counsel, you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is very intricate and this is very interesting. And I have a pretty good grasp of the legal perspectives or the legal side here, even though I'm not an attorney, but I know a bunch of attorneys, and I've spoken to a bunch of wonderful, very powerful attorneys, and they've explained to me a couple of things regarding this case, specifically that U.S. attorneys don't indict anyone unless they have an absolute certainty of them getting a conviction. So he's either going to make a plea deal and flip and sing, or he's going to fight it, in which case he's going to have to prove that Baker knew. Now, James Baker, the legal counsel at the FBI, his defense or his perspective is the following. Well, I didn't do anything wrong. I was a government official. I didn't do anything wrong. I was simply, I was worried about, concerned for U.S. national security. I mean, there were reports that said that Russia interfered in the election. Well, nobody can tell you how many Facebook ads people saw. Nobody can tell you if Russia interfered. There's not one person on the planet who can tell you how many votes were altered by Russian interference through the form of Facebook ads and Twitter bots. You have to understand something. The whole thing is so absurd that these morally superior, wonderful, liberal Democrats, who are extremely intelligent people, by the way, and extremely intelligent people can also lack wisdom, and they can also believe the dumbest things in the world. So these people believe that Russia interfered and attacked our democracy through Facebook ads, through Twitter bots. But and I don't have Twitter, I don't have Facebook, but if you've ever been on Twitter, you know that an opposing viewpoint makes you dig your heels in and never alter your own viewpoint. Nobody on Twitter says, gosh, that person disparaging me, he has a very good point. I'm going to change my viewpoint. Nobody looks at a Facebook ad and says, I'm going to vote for Trump instead of Clinton. Two completely different. The reason Trump won is he was very different from a Republican, very different from a Democrat. So no one's going to look at a Facebook ad and say, gosh, I'm going to vote for Trump and not Clinton. Okay, they fabricated everything. And the Director of National Intelligence, the ODNI report under Clapper, comes with a high to moderate confidence assessment. So people who, and the DHS report comes with a warranty disclaimer stating we're not guaranteeing anything. And you had liberal journalists at left-leaning publications meeting with people like James Baker, meeting with people in the FBI, getting information from them, and then flooding the airways with nonsense. But see, again, you have very smart people still to this day saying, I don't care what was found. I still believe Trump was installed by the Kremlin. Well, Russia's being invaded. Russia is invading Ukraine and outside of Kiev and committing all of these heinous acts while Democrats and the adults in the room are in power. So this is happening under mashed potato brains' presidency. Okay? It's happening under his watch, just like Crimea was taken when President Obama was in office. So it's classic projection, but on a grandiose scale. But the thing with James Baker is he has to say, look, I was working for the government, and Sussmann duped me, and he deceived me. I didn't know what Michael Sussmann was doing. Of course that's a lie. Of course that's a lie. Of course James Baker knew what Michael Sussmann was doing. He knew the law firm. Everyone knew. When James Comey says he didn't know the Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton, he's lying. And it's only a matter of time before they get caught in a perjury trap. Numerous perjury traps. I mean, you already have a perjury trap with Attorney General Loretta Lynch and James Comey, both of them saying something didn't take place. Attorney General Loretta Lynch saying, I never called the Clinton email probe a matter. James Comey saying, well, she called it a matter, and therefore I had to take it. I had to exonerate Clinton and say there was no intent. He didn't have to do that. He decided to do that. So that wasn't it wasn't for him to decide whether or not to charge. It's for him to give all the information to the Department of Justice, and then the prosecutors decide there. Okay, and then when Michael Horowitz said, well, we saw no documentary or testimonial bias, well, no one's going to write down their political motives. So the whole thing, these people are very good at hiding behind bureaucracy. Baker, James Baker, the legal counsel of the FBI, well, I didn't really, I was duped. And then Michael Sussmann, well, I was an attorney, and it doesn't matter who paid me. I gave that information, and then they knew that I was working for Clinton and the DNC anyway. Well, now you have two sides that were once working in a symbiotic relationship to just bash Trump and undermine, an incoming president. Now you have two sides trying to oppose one another. Not good. Not good and you have the Clinton Foundation and Clinton Global Initiative. They're sparking that up. Guess who's running again? God bless her. I want her to. I pray to God every day for Clinton versus Trump. Not only because I'll be vindicated and the only person on the planet who will have told the world that Clinton's running again. Just like I said, Clinton would lose to Trump. I said that we're going to have a stock market crash. We're seeing it right now. In slow motion, and will unfortunately have the 2,000 to 3,000 point drops, 4,000 to 5,000 point drops in 2 days or so, within a 2-day span to 3-day span. I mean, it's going to be a catastrophe. Oil is through the roof, 130 it reached today, and gasoline prices close to $7. At least Trump isn't tweeting. I have that little series every evening at about 10 or 11 p.m. It'll be my last segment every day. Okay, at least Trump isn't tweeting. Gas prices at $7, at least Trump isn't tweeting. Russia raises its nuclear readiness level, at least Trump isn't tweeting. Okay? All of this, you've experienced, if you're a liberal Democrat, you've watched this for 12 minutes, I don't know why you would, but if you did, you've experienced higher gas prices, oil prices, an economy that's into a recession. We're heading into a recession. We could reach an economic depression possibly. I mean, jet fuel is at all-time highs and could cause bankruptcies with airplanes and so you look at oil that could cause bankruptcies in numerous industries. Okay, then you have layoffs. We haven't even seen yet the repercussions, God forbid. And unfortunately, it's going to take place of layoffs. Like, the worst, unfortunately, is yet to come, but at least Trump isn't tweeting. So the airline industry is going to suffer. That's just one industry. Every industry is linked either directly or indirectly to fuel costs. But again, all they wanted to do was combat climate change after they ended economic activity. Okay? You're talking about the smartest people in the room are not the smartest people in the room. They lack wisdom. They're very intelligent. Liberal Democrats are extremely intelligent people. They lack wisdom. I'd much rather have wisdom than intelligence. Now, Trump, he possesses wisdom. Well, most of the time. In terms of his personality, he pushes the envelope. So that there's not a great deal of wisdom when he pushes the envelope. But in terms of the Doha Agreement, in terms of the Abraham Accords, in terms of the Doha Agreement that Biden botched, those 13 Americans should be alive today. Those over 100 Afghans should be alive today. When you use the T-ban as security, that's a huge problem. But only they would do that. Blinken and Sullivan, and Sullivan pushed the Alpha Bank nonsense. But you look, Trump had the Abraham Accords, the Doha Agreement. He was the first president to step foot in North Korea. Inflation was less than 2%. Gasoline was like less than $3 a gallon. Economic growth was 2 to 3%, over 3% at one point. We had hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs. He was renegotiating trade deals, USMCA, and he had deals with China that were negotiated because of those tariffs. We were an economic superpower. We were an economic superpower, which is what really makes, North Korea has a gigantic military. That doesn't make, that doesn't make them a superpower. What makes a country really the most powerful country, or the most powerful countries in the world, is the economic strength of a country. And if you combine that with military, great. But we don't have the leverage anymore because our economy is in the tank. And every time we sanction Russia, we hurt ourselves. The worst nightmares that Democrats had of Trump's administration are being realized under the administration of mashed potato brains. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Baker has already testified in a grand jury. We have a number of high-ranking officials testifying, okay? The articles below, the above-referenced former FBI General Counsel, Durham lists a number of individuals, including the above-referenced who testified. Durham does not explicitly include the names of individuals who testified before the grand jury, but rather their professional titles. And one of the professional titles of the former FBI General Counsel. That was James Baker. I'll put that link below. It's a Yahoo article, and it's citing a Fox News article. Durham probe has accelerated with more people cooperating, coming before grand jury. The grand jury testimony is going to lead to perjury traps, and it's going to lead to two sides that were pitted against Trump, opposing one another. Again, there's nothing conspiratorial about this on the left. Everything's a conspiracy on the left. When they view something to be against their interests, it's either against democracy or it's conspiratorial. No, this is a special counsel. These DOJ indictments are taking place from the special counsel. This is a special counsel, just like Robert Mueller's special counsel, although this time you were finding out why they set up and framed Trump with a special counsel that was used simply to undermine an incoming president. Now we have a real special counsel without any media coverage and hardly any political support. Hit subscribe to this channel right this second.